Hello, and we're about to roll on another episode of The Space by Stanson's podcast. I'm Guy Stanley, your host, and very much looking forward to chatting to Paul Dare today. Paul has held senior positions at leading design and build firms, and the last 5 years has been head of design at Morgan Lovell, who are based in London and Bracknell. So he's got a lot to offer, and I can't wait to pick his brains. Let's have it. Thank you very much, Paul. Welcome, and thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to be here.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute privilege, to be honest. It's looking back at your career. It's been amazing for a start. Like, you've held so many senior roles, and then now at Morgan Lovell, like with what you've achieved there. And I just saw mixology finalist for the design practice.
That's right. Yeah, that's
2024.
Right. That's right. We've been nominated, which is fantastic.
Exciting.
I mean, it's fantastic to be nominated. Mm-hmm. It's great to be recognised. Yeah. As a design practice. So whether we win or lose doesn't actually really. It's great, it's fantastic, and it'll be a wonderful achievement. But for us, we get the sense of achievement of actually being recognised. Mm-hmm. People seeing us out there, seeing what we're doing, we're pushing the boundaries of design. We work really hard to make sure that the team not only is designing fantastic offices for our clients, but actually we practice what we preach in the messages that we're saying to our clients. We talk about looking after staff, understanding what people want, bringing inclusive design, diversity, innovation, technology, all of those wonderful things that we all talk about, we research, we hear about all the time. Yeah. It's saying, well, we really believe in that. We don't just talk about it. We really believe in it, and we bring it into our practice. Mm-hmm. And then that's reflected in what we do, and hopefully that's recognised by the wider world. And this, to us, is a little bit of a message back to us saying, well, we recognise, we can see what you're doing, which is great. So it's great to be there. Unfortunately, I'm not actually there on the day, which is which is really unfortunate. My team are all going to be there, and it's going to be. I love Mix. It's a great event of the year. We all look forward to it in the design team, because we get 2 tables. We have the London group and the Southern group. We all come together, and it's just fantastic. If we win, extra celebrations, but we're going to celebrate on the night. Well, they're going to celebrate on my behalf anyway. So. Yeah.
I don't think there is a lose option, to be fair, Paul. Yeah. I'm going to put that on the record, because I think you've been nominated, so straight away you are a winner of sorts. Yeah. Do you get me?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So I think you've been nominated. You've done something special. You stood out. Not everyone's nominated. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So hold your head up.
Yeah.
What do you have to submit for that? Is it like your practice, what you're doing, your projects, that type of thing?
Yeah. So in a whole, they ask us, why should we be nominated? So a lot of the things I just mentioned about the things that we're doing internally. So we write that down in a little statement as to why should we be nominated. We believe in diversity, inclusivity. We really are pushing the boundaries with design trends, satisfaction with our clients. They measure us on how well we perform as well. Our clients do that as well. So we express that. And then what else are we doing? What are we doing for the future? Why are we a design practice to be recognised? All of those reasons. So that all goes across in a statement, and then you support that with maybe some images as well. Really, that's all they really ask for. I guess that they do a bit of investigative work themselves, and talk to people. So yes, we cross everything, and we hope it's successful.
And for yourself, you actually didn't you start off in architecture?
I did,
and then you moved over to.
Yes.
DMB.
Yeah. So I guess, Guy, when I was studying, and we were coming to the end of the studies, you seek advice from your lecturers, and you say, right, what should our next steps be? Because we do have options. We could go into residential design, commercial design, whatever. You could go into architecture, trad, or design and build, and a lot of them advised us, go the architect route. So go to an architect's practice. Mm-hmm. etc. For whatever reason, whether they thought at the time maybe it held more gravitas for the future, maybe it was a learning thing or whatever. So I did go down that route. I went down the architecture route, which was fantastic. Where I went to, it was in the regions. It was in a place called Hitchin in Hertfordshire, very close to where I lived, which is great.
Ideal.
Really ideal. It was a family-friendly practice, which I can appreciate now with my experience now, what that really means to be family friendly. I took it for granted at the time. I went in, everybody's very friendly. They really cared. The pace of work was really steady, which is great for me because I was learning. So I was able to ask people questions. They would spend time with me. I never felt like I was really hassling them out of their day. And the quality of work was a really high standard, incredibly thorough, which was really good. So we really investigated and researched everything we did. We spent time to understand the client. So the pace was great for me as a young man learning his trade. So I loved the architecture route. However, there's a flip side to that. So I was quite young. I just came out of university. I was full of creativity and enthusiasm and energy. And because the pace was quite steady.
I like that word.
Careful with my words there. It's very steady. Steady pace of work. I felt that I could give more. And I felt I wanted to push the boundaries a little bit harder and move a little bit faster. And I was there. I stayed there for 6 years. So I do felt like, as I guess I would have been called a junior, and I moved myself up to maybe a middleweight while I was there. I felt like I needed to push myself again, maybe move a little bit faster, push my creativity. I was in the regions, as I mentioned, and I thought, well, maybe I need to move to the big smoke. Everybody, especially myself, I really wanted to work in London, experience London lifestyle, and maybe be exposed to some of that creativity that maybe you may get in London, maybe that comes with the expenditure, that the sorts of clients that you'd meet in London as well. I mean, in the 6 years I was in my architect's practice, I think I covered 3 major projects, in 6 years, which at the time I thought, maybe that's the norm, but I soon learned as my career went over that actually you could do a lot more in a year, and in fact at some point in my career I was covering something like 6 to 8 projects at any one time.
I was going to say, you've probably got 6 happening right now, like this minute.
So the pace is very different as well. So I did, move on. I took the leap. And I took the leap out of architecture into design and build, which at the time I knew a little bit about, but didn't really fully understand, what D&B was versus, working for an architect practice. I learned very quickly, Guy.
It used to be a bit of a dirty word.
It did used to be a little bit of a dirty word. And working in an architect practice as well, of course, I'd say that they weren't fully appreciative of the D&B style, and possibly they did look down on D&B. So actually, the language sometimes, that's where I wasn't that great towards D&B. And whether that was valid or not in those days, we are talking almost 26 years ago, 26 years ago. Maybe to a point, there were some companies that didn't do a lot of justice to that industry, to the D&B industry. I've seen that change dramatically, in that period of time, which is why I'm still in this industry. And I think the industry now has something to be very proud of, in design and build when we talk about quality, care for the client, just everything, creativity. I think the industry's massively progressed, and actually has a lot to be proud of. So a lot of those design and build companies out there, you only have to look at the quality of their work and the companies who they work with, the clients that they hold, which tells you the standard is incredibly high, incredibly high now. And competing with some of the best architects as well.
That was, especially this year. Everything's gone. The world's changing again, isn't
Yeah.
it? There's probably going to be a new word emerging.
Yeah, well, I've coined a few words in my time, so I'm very careful with my words now, especially because, some of the social media out there, you're there forever once you coin these words. But you're right. There is a fusion happening with the architect or consultancy world, A&D world, and the design and build world. Where we're getting closer to one another, in our industry. So, they're coming a little bit closer to us. We're coming a little bit closer to architecture. And sometimes we cross over, and actually sometimes we do work in partnership as well. So we work with a lot of architects as well, where they may take someone from stage 2 or stage 3, and we'll pick that up. But they will be guardians of that design. But also they're looking at us for our influences and our experience with that, bringing our pace and our, all of that fusion with their creativity and their quality and our quality, etc. So there is a lot of crossover, mix, collaboration, which is also quite refreshing to see that happening as well. Which there aren't many industries where you see that kind of collaboration and fusion. So
No, it is. Stuff I've been seeing this year particularly has been really different, and all of that you say. I'm wondering what the new word is that you're going to coin it.
I'm reluctant to say it on here, but I did a talk earlier on in the year, and it was to do with how hotel design or hospitality design was crossing over with workplace design. So it used to be the residential crossing over with the commercial, which were resi-commercial. And then there's hospitality crossing over with commercial. You can mix the two together and come up with some funky words. I'm not going to do it here. Someone's going to do it for us.
Someone will, yeah.
Someone will do it.
I've seen some bouncing around, and I'm like, wow. I suppose it explains. It explains something, so fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's good. Excellent. No, thank you for that, Paul. It's interesting. And so what sort of team do you lead now?
So I currently lead a team of 30 designers. Okay, which is a growing team because the business is growing, which goes a little bit back to what we mentioned about being recognised for our quality of design, etc. Yeah, of course, more of our existing clients, are coming back to us because they recognise the quality that we brought to them in the first place. But we actually get new clients who saying, well, actually, we can recognise what Morgan Lovell are doing. We see their values, etc., etc. So we want some of that. So the team is growing with our client base is growing as well. 30. It's quite a big team, but it contains creative leads, which would be equivalent to design directors. So they're right at the top of the chain, to senior designers and senior leads, to middleweight designers, project designers, junior designers, and then technical designers as well. So we switch between that creative into the buildability, the quality, that attention to detail on side coordination, tech designers. We've got our own graphic designers in-house as well. And then visualizers as well. So these are the guys who bring our concepts to life and, show our clients and do the fantastic things of walking around a space, and really just showing the client exactly what they're going to get, almost immersing them in the room. You can look at the ceilings, look at the walls, you change the color of the seat, change the color of the walls, etc. But so it's all encompassing, so we like to bring our clients to the office and say they can have any experience they want, and say, look, this is your creative lead here, but 2 meters away is the person that supports that creative lead. And 2 meters away from that person is the person who puts together the document. And 2 meters away from that person, the person who costs it, and the person who owns the project, Pete, the project director over there. So quite a big team that we're incredibly proud of. It's a really inclusive team and massively diverse as well. So in the team, say 30 of us, we've got an age range from as low as 20 to as high as mid-50s as well. So massive demographic there. And then we've got probably about a ratio of about 55% female to male. And we've got about 17 different cultures, 17 different heritages in our design team alone.
That's
From
fantastic.
all over the world. Okay.
That's fantastic.
Which is, we love it because we've got, Brazilians, Italians, Spanish, Venezuelan, obviously English, etc. A complete range.
Yeah.
Which is great because actually they bring something from their background as well to how we think, how we design, how we communicate, how we understand. Of course, our clients come from all over the world as well, so we're able to piggyback on people in our team who may say, we've got an Italian client here. Any advice on things that we should be really delving into, and any cultures that we should be understanding as well. We can really, use that to our advantage as well.
Oh, totally. And like culture, I mean, it's a whole other conversation, but I get quite passionate about that. But how cultures come across and the things that people expect as normal and how people communicate is probably the biggest thing. Most cultures
communication.
Or don't communicate. And like that's that. I mean, your job role kind of obviously explains it, head of design, but managing that demographic with like all of those different cultures and across 2 locations, that's a huge leadership role. Like, I'm not talking about design, I'm talking about leadership. How do you do that?
Well, so I'll just firstly I'll qualify that we have a London team and we have a Southern team.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 heads of design.
Okay.
So you got myself. I run the London team, which is 30 strong. There's the team in Bracknell, which is run by Adrian Norman, and he runs that team over there. So I don't actually look after the Southern team, just the London team. But there is still a lot of
all of that's all within the London team.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just the London team. Yeah.
I just assumed it was across the 2.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
So it's a great question. People say, Paul, how do you manage, that leadership role, across such a big group and different cultures and demographics? And maybe that boils down to people, who I am as a person. I'm very open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to, as I've grown up, obviously, with a different culture myself. My parents being African as well, which means I'm slightly more open-minded to talking to and dealing with different cultures myself because I grew up with it.
Yeah.
And of course, lived in London in the early stage of my life. Moved out when I was younger, but that's another story as well. But Guy, it's been an experience because no one teaches you.
No.
I think it's something you either have or you don't have. And, over time I've learned through experience. Yeah. We make mistakes, we learn from our mistakes. I really do believe in awareness and self-awareness. So I believe it's really important to ask people, how am I doing? How's that experience for you with me? Never be too egotistical or proud to go to the least senior person in the business, whoever that may be, a junior designer, a graduate, and say, we had a conversation the other day about this, that, and the other. How was that for you? Or I presented something to you the other day. How did I do? But also be brave enough to go to the most senior person in the business, maybe that's the MD, and say, I presented a report to you the other day. How did I do? And he may give you some negative feedback and say, well, I felt you missed this and you missed that, and you could have elaborated a bit more on this, and maybe not take that with with any pain. Use it as a learning curve to go away and say, well, actually, maybe next time I present to my MD, I'm gonna show him that I listened, and I'm gonna improve on that. I might even show him something he wasn't expecting. And elaborate on something as well. So there's learning, self-awareness and learning. Be a mentor to yourself. Have a mentor, go talk to people and ask them how well you're doing. So self-awareness, crucial. Everyone should have self-awareness. So
Yeah, no, it's so great to hear that. And I think, like, someone that hasn't made a mistake is someone that hasn't done anything.
Yeah.
For a start. And secondly, I totally agree. Like, constructive criticism given in the right way as well. Actually, I do think it needs to be given in the right way, but then taken in the right way. There's no such thing as failure. It's just learnings, isn't it? It's just lessons, which is, with the mindset of everyone coming together, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you can share your learnings as well, which is part of being a leader, which is where I think the question started. Is part of being a leader is being able to share that knowledge that we've gained or I've gained as a leader and say, I've experienced this, and in order to help you maybe learn from my experiences, I'm going to share that with you. I'm going to give you some advice. It's important that we make mistakes ourselves and we learn, but actually if there's certain mistakes that we don't need to go through, or we can know, actually I learned, Paul said that this happened to him, so maybe I'm going to improve on that, and I'm going to try not to make that same mistake, which you'll make a different mistake, but actually I'm not going to make that one there.
Yeah. Helping them along the road.
Yeah.
That's good. Lovely to hear. Massive question that's bouncing out of the road, that kind of bounced about from COVID, which is a bit old, is what is the purpose of the office? But dovetailing into what you're saying, I think that the culture of the office is really key, because that brings about that healthy space for people to have those conversations, to lead and to learn and everything. How can one of your clients take into consideration culture when they are thinking about their next office design?
Yeah, it's another good question, Guy. And it can spiral off into all kinds of things. So when we look at what is the purpose of the office, the purpose of the office is different to every single client that we have.
Okay.
Because they all work in very different ways, got different businesses, and they have different outputs, and their ideas are generated in different ways. So what I usually start with, the why. Okay, and there's a guy who wrote a book called Start with the Why, Simon Sinek. Very famous, did a TED talk, and if anyone hasn't seen that TED talk, I advise everyone to go and have a look on YouTube. I don't think it's that long, 20 minutes, but he also has a book. And he really delves into the why. Start with the why, because that's the most important thing. So for us, when we look at the purpose of the office, the first thing I would do is I would sit with the client. Hopefully we get FaceTime. Really important to get FaceTime with your client. Not many people do. You'll receive a brief and you're expected to produce a wonderful design for their office and understand their culture, their business, but you've never met a client. You might go and research them online, which is black and white, it's very scripted, it's very carefully written, etc. Is it really telling you about the culture of that business, how they work, etc.? Or you've received the brief that's been written by one person in that business, and maybe they've not consulted the rest of the business or qualified it with the rest of the business as well. I can ask the right questions, or hopefully ask the right questions with clients to understand a bit more about the why. Okay, so you're moving office, you're upgrading your office, you're changing your office. Can you just explain to me a little bit about why have you chosen to do that? Yeah. And who's been involved in the process? Yeah, what are you hoping the outcomes to be? Is it profitability? Is it increased performance? Is it more collaboration? Is it actually drawing more people out of their house, out of the, their office at home or whatever, the workplace, to get them into the office? What's your driver? What's your pain point? What's your current pain point?
Yeah.
The questions go on and on and on and on, which is great.
Yeah.
But actually, at the end of that conversation, I'm able to ascertain, what the key drivers are for that client and that business, maybe understand that business a lot more, before I can sit down, with the team and start brainstorming, right, this is the office that we're going to create for that client.
Yeah.
As well, and the brainstorming aspect of it is also really important, because Paul Dare has got lots of ideas in his head, okay? But actually Paul Dare has a team of creatives around him who also have lots of ideas. And actually to just pick on all of that knowledge and all those ideas and all those sparks that fly around in a room when you talk about, a brief, a client, we've met a client and they've got this idea for this. And so, I've done something in the past that's this, which sparks another idea about this, which sparks another idea about that. And you write it all on a wall and you get the images and you get it all and you say, wow, okay, that's encompasses the client. How do we bring this all together? And, you sit in a room and then you might say, well, thanks guys. Thanks everybody for all your ideas. I'm going to have a think about that and whatever. And you come up with that idea for that client. It's a magical moment when it happens and you say, right, we've got it. Yeah, we think we've got it. Then you play that back to your client.
Face to face.
Face to face. So important, face to face. Hopefully not on Teams either, or whatever. If you're in the room with them, it's even better.
Yeah.
But, because, that's a whole other topic, that being able to read someone's emotions while you're presenting to them and actually show them how passionate about what you're doing as well. It's really important. Sometimes it doesn't come across online, but actually face to face, show them your ideas and they buy into it. And they say, yeah, okay, we got it. We trust you. You've obviously researched this. I think you understand us really well. Let's take your knowledge, your experience. Yeah, let's move forward to it. And then you create it. They move in. I've shortened a very massive period there, but they move in and it's great, and the office it looks fantastic. It works for them. You've understand their business and it's working. You've hit their purpose, the nail on the head, and it's working for them. The business is growing, the productivity is growing, the collaboration is growing, all of those things,
And you find the purpose is very often different for all your clients.
Yeah, holistically, the purpose is bring us together in one place as a business and, look at our values and our goals. And generally, holistically, that's the big purpose.
Yeah.
But actually, when you look at the detail, it's very different from every client, really different. We talk about, let's talk about inclusivity and neurodiversity, for instance.
Yes, please do.
And to some clients, when you break that down into maybe the 5 key elements of, sight, sound, feel, touch, taste, all of those things, we say, well, we're all different. We're all triggered by different things in the workplace, and to have natural daylight for some people could be so important, to know that it's daytime outside and feel that energy that natural light gives us is so important. To walk around a place and it's not too bright or the colours are not too aggressive, that while I'm sitting there trying to work and have a bit of quiet time, the powerful pillar box red over there is just blinking at me, and it's disrupting me. I don't know why I'm slightly agitated today, but every time I look up I see that red glaring at me. Could I have maybe selected a slightly calmer, nicer colour? It's a quiet area, so maybe the colours are a bit calmer as well. Maybe the sound in that quiet area, we've got acoustic panels, some curtains, to just soften that area and just absorb the sound, and it's a quiet zone. Everybody knows it's a quiet zone. So the mobile phones are off in that area. Or I need the energy. So therefore, in a certain part of the office, we've created a zone that we've allowed people to be a bit louder. Maybe we've introduced a little bit of sound. Maybe that there's a radio playing, or there's a little bit of white noise, background noise, just to allow people the freedom to say, this is a safe area. I can be a bit louder. I can shout across the office at the other person because that's okay here.
Yeah.
Over there, it's, that's where there's something happening over there. It's a bit quiet. But over here, maybe it's the sales team. They're slightly louder, not to pick on sales. Yeah, it's slightly extroverted area, Like that. So, so neurodiversity, really important. The breakout area is an area that we go to invigorate and recharge. So I've sat at my desk now for 3 hours, in the morning. I've really been hammering this thing that I'm doing. I need to go stretch my legs. I'm going to go to a place where I could just sit in a slightly more comfier chair, have a cup of coffee, maybe have a chat with somebody about their weekend. Maybe the tennis is on the telly, so, I can take 20 minutes out. I feel a bit energized now, so I'm going to go back and finish what I was doing, go back to that zone over there and finish what I was doing. So you cater for everybody. So it's a very inclusive environment. And I spoke earlier, Guy, about, how do we help people come back to the office?
Yeah.
Working at home has many advantages, many advantages. But it'd be great if we could bring some of those advantages to the office. So actually, maybe we could say, I'm going to go to the office. I've got some quiet work to do, but actually I quite like the quiet zone at work. So maybe I could do it there. And actually I do need to see, Steph today. So although I've got some quiet work to do, if I see Steph in the breakout area, I can have a quick conversation with her about this. I don't have to book a meeting. I'll just have an ad hoc meeting and we'll just cross paths and stuff. So it was great to be able to offer that. As well as an addition to the office place.
I think there's a lot of that. If you don't, I'm actually quite charged by people, so I get it that I like to be in and that's me as a personality, and I get that everybody's like that, and so I'm not really a massive work at home person just because of who I am, and I get other people are. But if you don't come in, you don't know what you're not gonna get. I get that a lot. Like even popping in to meet a few people from your team, like cross paths with you, just wouldn't have happened. Do you know what I mean? If I don't make the effort to get there, and sometimes it is an effort, the weather's crap and you've got to walk and it's raining or whatever, but what that unlocks is crazy. It's like you can't guess what it might be.
You can't. It's the unplanned, isn't it? It's the unplanned, and particularly when you're in a creative environment, as we are in our business, and a lot of businesses are, in fact, I think even you look at some industries that they may think they're not in a creative environment, but actually there's still creativity around what they do. Maybe if you look at finance or accounting and insurance and stuff, which people may say, well, maybe it's about facts and figures and stuff like that. There is still creativity around that, and actually sometimes having that accidental brainstorm, scrum, overhearing a conversation in a desk over there, and then you can add value to that, and it's accidental, it's unplanned. And actually, I just read something in the paper this morning, and they spoke exactly about what you just said, Faith, and maybe you should read that article, but they wouldn't have known that if you didn't add that, and it's just accidental, it's unplanned, and it's informal, which is the greatest thing. Is I love things that are informal, unplanned meetings, and a 5-minute conversation, 5-minute chat that stops you planning that hour meeting. Which, it's a lot more direct. Correct. You plan a meeting, you structure an agenda, but actually you could probably shorten that meeting to a third of its time if you just have that conversation with somebody.
To find them.
Just find them. Quick chat. Done. Move on.
Impacts culture, doesn't it? Because I feel like, design obviously has a huge impact on culture, but also people have a huge impact on culture for obvious reasons, and where people feel safe to come and to be. I've been talking about inclusivity and neurodiversity, and I get that we can design, or you can design, colours that are softer and lights that aren't flickering and all that type of thing, but it's really about creating those safe spaces, and then the acceptance from people, and kind of the allowance of people being themselves and that non-judgmental, that kind of bringing everybody together. Is that something you tackle a bit?
Yeah. I mean, it's everything encompassing of design. You know, when we talk about what do we do as designers, we have to understand every element of design. So, you know, all the things you just mentioned there are things that we research these things continuously. We go to webinars to listen to what other people's opinions are. We go to talks. We're lucky enough to be in an industry that does wonderful things like Clerkenwell Design Week, you know, which is a week where a lot of the showrooms in Clerkenwell, it's Clerkenwell Design Week, open their showroom doors, and they invite everybody. You know, if you're interested in design, you're welcome. But mainly it's for the trade, and they'll put on a series of talks that may cover any subject from, you know, neurodiversity to aesthetics to technology, innovation. All those wonderful topics, you know, and, you know, we get to pick and choose which ones we want to go to. They're like mini lectures, if you like. And there is where we get the research, we get the knowledge, you know, we're imparted with all these things. So, and that's how we consider all these things in our design. You know, we say, oh, that's interesting. I went to a talk, you know, at Clerkenwell Design Week, where the guy spoke about how aesthetics impacts on neurodiversity and inclusivity and diversity and stuff like that. And, you know, and then the next time I'm talking to a client, you know, you're going to impart that knowledge to them, you know, which is how it works, which is great. So I actively encourage my team to get out there, you know, at Clerkenwell Design Week specifically, but also read the magazines, you know, be a font of knowledge when you come to your clients so that you can inform them of the knowledge that you should know.
Yeah. Do you actually help people find their office space?
So not really, not really, because there are professionals in our industry who are paid some money, quite a bit of money, to do that. So what tends to happen is that a lot of our clients will specifically go to agents who will help them with that. What does tend to happen is that those agents will come to us and they will say, we have a client who's interested in, you know, 3 different spaces. Would you mind coming along the journey with us and to impart some knowledge as to how these buildings could work for them? So although we're not finding the buildings, we are helping the clients and informing them of how the buildings may work for their business, you know, and whether the buildings work for them, you know, because it's not a one size fits all. It's a space, and you can convert any space to work for any client. The different influences impact different businesses, and we can help them with that, especially when it comes to space ratios, you know, and those kinds of things. We can really help with that. So.
What makes a building work?
Oh, so many things, but consideration for the people who will be in that building is key. So what other facilities can that building offer the people in that who are in that space? So, for instance, if it's a building that has facilities such as a basement or lower ground floor for bike storage, is a key one. Yeah, so we're encouraging people to use less and less transport because we use less fuel, it helps the environment, etc. So jump on your bike or run to walk. So what happens when I get to work? Can I have a shower? You know, so if there's an area that we can have a shower with lockers, we get to work, have a shower, I can park my bike, great. You know, so that's something that we can offer back to any company who's moving into that building. Reception areas, are there things such as, touchdown areas in a reception area where for some businesses, you don't actually have to go into their space. You might meet them in the reception area. It's got a barista service. You know, you can have a coffee downstairs in the reception area. You can have an informal meeting down there because you're meeting a client or you're meeting a contractor, you're meeting a supplier, a manufacturer. They don't have to come into your space. You could do it downstairs because the building offers that to you as well. Does the building offer other facilities? It's got a gym. So for the people who work maybe slightly longer hours, but they don't have the time in the morning to get to the gym or the time after work to get to the gym, could they go to the gym in the building in their lunchtime? Yoga facilities, those kinds of things that offer additional value are some of the things that I feel that really help a building to work for, a client, a new client moving into that building. And just an example, I mean, there are many more. But, when we look at environmental credentials, if you're a business who really cares about your impact on the environment, how's that mirrored by the building itself? Is it a BREEAM building? Has that been measured to an extent? And then does the fit out, does that equal that same fit out? So, what the landlord's possibly done for that building to make it a very environmental and sustainable building. Have you then fitted out your building to mirror that, as well? And then there are other things that go around that, collection of recycling of rubbish in a building. How's that dealt with by the landlord, etc. Solar panels, energy, all those kinds of things is what helps a building to work, and may be important to one client and may not be important to another client, or may not be necessary by one client. But for us, when we talk to our clients and we will ask them those kinds of questions, is this building suitable for you? Because how many of your staff cycle to work? How many of your staff may have physical needs that the building has to be suitable to allow them to even get into the building? Is it catered for everybody? Has it got suitable, entrance ways, exit ways, all those kinds of
things. No, it's, as you're talking, it sounds like a building has a personality.
yeah, well, it has. It's got a character and a personality.
Yeah, so recently, Compton launched that branding, where they brand a building, sort of almost, which is, I suppose, giving it a personality, which is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you touched on sustainability there, which is great. How do you actually advise your clients? Because I guess that comes up every single project.
Yeah.
How do you advise your clients to go down? Is it BREEAM, LEED? Is there any particular thing that you explore for them?
Yeah, so we tend not to advise them. We tend to educate them, and we tend to say these are the possibilities for you, and this is what it means. And as you know, there are many, many different sustainability credentials, accreditations out there, and it's saying, well, which one's suitable for your business? Which one's suitable possibly for what we're going to do for you, for the fit out? For instance, there's a SCAR, which may be more suitable for a fit out because it focuses more on maybe the materials that are going into the building, that are going into that space, and actually maybe BREEAM's more suitable to the building itself, and LEED, which is more American based. We do it over here, but maybe it's more American based. So maybe it's more suitable for the American client because they understand it a little bit better. But maybe, SCAR's maybe possibly more suited for something over here. And then also, to what level do you want to take it to? Do you want recognition that we are a sustainable company, but we don't want to go to a gold level of that? Particularly, I'm picking on SCAR now, but the bronze, silver, gold rating. And some clients may say, we're happy with a bronze level. It shows that we care about the environment. We've taken it to a certain point, but we're happy with that. Another client may say, we want to take it to the gold level because we really want to show that this mirrors our values, that we say on our website, and we say to our clients that we are, doing X amount for the environment, and therefore our fit out has done X amount for the environment. We as a business, as designers, we've made a bit of a commitment, at Morgan Lovell, or part of Morgan Sindel Group, where we say that everything we design will be to a SCAR rating of silver. Okay. And what we do as designers or as a business is that we do the research, we challenge ourselves to go and find equal materials to whatever else we may be using that gives us that silver rating. So it's at no additional cost to the client So the carpet won't cost you any more because it's a silver scar rating. We've done the research, we've done the effort to go and find a carpet that's equal to the carpet that you may have wanted, but doesn't cost you any additional money. But it's a silver rating.
That's really lovely.
Yeah. And then we offer that back to the client.
Yeah. So do you have scar assessors in house?
Yeah. So we've got scar assessors in the house.
Yeah. Okay.
As part of the group. So we have an environmental team, and at last counting, I think it's about 13 strong. Okay, and they cover the group as well. So we've got access to them at any point where we can say, right, we've got a new project on. It's led by a guy called Dr. Joe Croft, who leads that, and we'll get in contact with him and we'll say, right, we've got a new project on. They want a scar gold, or they want a BREEAM excellent. They want to lead this, or they maybe we'll start talking about well as well. And then he'll come on board, he'll understand the requirements, and he'll assign a member of the team who comes and helps us do all of that measuring of those credentials, etc. And then if we want to get it accredited, we can't mark our own work. We will get an external assessor to come and do that assessment for us. Okay. It's not that we can't do it, we just can't mark our own work. And they'll come in and they'll actually audit it for us, and then they'll give us that accreditation as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's quite nice for a client.
Yeah,
all that sorted for them.
yeah, really, really good. So we tried. So even for the client who says, "Oh yeah, we really care about the environment and stuff," but on this project, we're not going to really do anything for it. We can still say, well, we can tell your fit out is to scar silver. So it's something you can say to your clients, even though you won't have a certificate, you can still say it, like that.
It's nice to know.
Yeah.
Do you think that some of these certifications are getting a little bit over the top and we just need a bit more common sense? Or is that a wrong thing to say to you?
It's it's a tricky subject because we all know about greenwashing.
Yeah.
Okay, and we can be bombarded with lots of environment. Do we mean it? Are people just saying it for the sake of it? It's a topic that we know we need to tick the box and move forward. I believe knowledge is power. So as much as we can understand and know about the environment and all these accreditations out there, the better. Being more focused and having an understanding of what these credentials are and which ones apply to you, I think has benefit as well. So maybe we do need to slim down the amount of some of these accreditations and stuff that are out there, and so that people have greater focus on which ones are suitable to them and how they can impact them as well. Now, I'm no specialist when it comes to the environment and what's out there to us, and I'm sure there are people out there who could probably cover that subject in a lot greater detail. So this is a personal opinion on that. When I say, maybe we need greater focus on what these environmental subjects are and how we can really delve into them. And companies are not just tick boxing, just to say we've done this amount and kind of move on.
I think what you said is really important, though, that you're not an environmental specialist. I think that we all need a basic level, whether we're a specialist or not, to be able to make the decisions. It's a bit like the food we eat. We know everybody has enough of an idea about what's good for you, what's not, the nutrition labels on the food. Like, I get it. Some people choose not to be educated and some people choose to, and that's totally their choice, and that's absolutely fine. And other people are very, very health conscious or whatever. So flip it off sustainability onto health. It's something that broadly is out there, and I'm sure there's lots of complicated things you can get in bodybuilding and macros, etc. But there's the average, which I feel like we need to almost get that sort of average sort of knowledge within everyone, or the majority. It feels like there's an exclusive sort of going back to the health thing, there's an exclusive sort of sustainability sort of measuring macros bodybuilder type people, and then the rest of us don't necessarily know enough and are kind of like leaving it to them.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can all just like level it out a little bit. Feels like to me.
Yeah. I do think you're right. There's some basic knowledge that we should have.
Yeah.
And some further knowledge that we should have. But you're right, there should be a happy medium in between.
And yeah, quite complicated, some of it.
Some of it can be extremely complicated, which in our business is great because we have a team who really understand that complication to it. So for me and my designers, when it gets a little bit much, I'll lean on the expert.
13 people over there.
Yeah.
You're going to lean on,
exactly.
Aren't you?
And I'll say, please, can you explain this new regulation, this new thing to me and my team? And they'll do a session with us to help us bring it down to layman's terms, to help us understand. Because if I'm struggling to understand it, or my team is struggling to understand it, you bet your bottom dollar that our clients probably are struggling to understand it.
Yeah, unless they're Greenpeace.
Yeah, unless they're Greenpeace, and then they're going to tell us about it.
No, but it's true, isn't it? It's just like, it's a valid point.
Yeah.
I know it's a fairly like hot topic. So.
And when we talk about influences to what we know and what we don't know, a funny one is my kids tell me so much. I've got two children, guy. One's 10 and one's 12, and their education on the environment is amazing. And sometimes they'll come and they'll tell me stuff or educate me about even some of the basic stuff, like just recycling at home. And I think I know what I'm doing, but actually they'll very quickly tell me, Daddy, do you know you need to wash that out? And before you put it in that, and do you know the black plastic shouldn't go in that container, it should go in that container. And that's just a micro of, that knowledge coming from a very young generation where I think I know it, and they're telling me some very basic stuff, even, they help me, let's take a domestic, and they help me with things in a house. For instance, we're taking things to the tip. And take it to the tip. Say, well, Daddy, why don't we put it on a drive? Put it on a drive for Saturday, but for an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and see if somebody else down the street wants to use it and recycle this thing that you think is no good to anybody. And we'll do it. We'll put it on the drive, whatever. And lo and behold, within an hour or two, someone has recycled that down the road, And I think my wife's on a group, I think it's a Facebook group or social media group, where they can post things on there locally and say who would like whatever, and child's bike or whatever. And somebody somewhere is going to utilize that thing, So that's just an influence from a source that you just don't think is really going to be useful. And maybe our industry could be better at that, is taking it to a slightly different level of how we reuse, recycle things. When we pull it back to the industry, my industry of commercial interior design, and you think of the amount of furniture, or carpet, or wall building waste that comes out of an office that might only have a life of 3 years or 5 years, and it comes out of that building and it goes into a skip, which goes to another place, and then it's buried, and then it's never used again. Well, could we be better? Could there be a better system in place for that furniture, that carpet, that it gets another life? It's reused again, or the next person coming into that building, maybe they get an opportunity to look at that before it's stripped out, maybe, and say, oh, actually, we could utilize all of that furniture, or we could utilize half of that furniture, which saves them costs. It helps us for the environment. Is there a system in place for it? Or could there be a better system, an easier system, that helps us with that?
Yeah, it's really interesting what you say, though, because 10 to 12-year-olds kind of have got some of that knowledge that I haven't got, and maybe that is what it is. We just need that generation to grow up. Like,
Yeah.
just wait.
Yeah. I mean, it's their world that we're currently looking after at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
So it's interesting that they're learning. I mean, I presume they're learning at school, but they're learning some really sort of fundamentals, which are obviously going to lay a really nice base layer for years down the line.
yeah, some key messages that they're taking on board now, which is
good.
great to see.
Yeah, it is great to see. Yeah, I mean, even just in the like sort of videos. I mean, I've got a 2-year-old. Like the videos that they watch, there's a lot around. Like it's just starting to come in everything, right?
Yeah,
It is good.
yeah.
So I'm just kind of. I know people is like my most important. I love talking about people and how people really are sort of think, feel, and behave in a space, and how we can sort of kind of actually help people become the best version of themselves is kind of my most passion, if you like. And I had some notes down just from chatting to you before. How do you use materials and colours to engage people's emotions?
I mean, a lot of it comes into research.
Yeah.
Particularly when you talk about psychology of colour.
Yeah.
And psychology of materials. And then psychology of people. And you touched on it a little bit earlier when you spoke about introverts versus extroverts. That goes as far as, you know, the material selection, colour selection that are around us as well. The slightly more eccentric person or extrovert person might be slightly happier with slightly bold colours and, fresh colours because they're energetic.
Yeah.
Somebody who's slightly more introverted, maybe a little bit quieter, might be better suited in slightly calmer colours, softer tones, softer furnishes, etc. Because that's what triggers them or recharges them, which is what we really talk about.
Yeah.
Or we're talking about when we talk about, triggers for different people is how do we recharge? How do we relax? And the tones, the textures, the lighting, incredibly important when it comes to office design. And it goes back to a little bit about understanding your client, understanding the why, understanding the purpose. That's all of that investigative work that we do as designers, brief taking. Let's call it brief taking because that's what it is. Brief taking and making sure that your brief taking has to be on point. You have to ask all those questions, the why. And not be afraid to ask those questions. And actually, you've got to ask difficult questions sometimes, Guy. About the business. Some questions that some clients may not want to answer because you're really delving into their business, their pain points, the crossovers between departments, etc. We need to understand everything so that we can make sure that everything that we do within that design is just as suitable as it can be. Okay, across departments, across the divisions, all of those things. I just touching on brief taking specifically for a reason, because if you get your brief wrong, you get your final design wrong. You've missed the mark of the purpose, and there's a massive danger there because actually you might design an office or a space, and actually it's working against the grain of everything that business needs or wants. So actually what you could be doing is creating an environment that actually might encourage conflict, might encourage people to not want to come into the office because it's not suitable for them. So it's actually counter intuitive, or because you've not paid attention to the brief, you've not got a brief right, or the client hasn't paid attention to the brief. They've not asked the right people. They've possibly not engaged with the right people. Haven't tested the brief. So it's okay to take a brief. Maybe you do sit with a group of people within your business, but where have you tested it? Have you tested it internally with a different group of people, with different hierarchy within a business to say, oh, I was told that we need a really big breakout area with a games room and lots of energy, and test it. And someone may say, oh, we're not sure about that. That may be good for, this sort of business, but I'm not sure where that business. Oh, that's interesting you say that.
Yeah, I also think, you touched on it before, but like being brutally honest, like asking those difficult questions, and if I get it can get quite uncomfortable, but at the same time, if you aren't brutally honest, the brief will be off, and that's your destination essentially. And if you haven't set your destination in the way you want it to be somewhere else, you're not going to get there, are you? It's pretty simple. And I guess the design is the roadmap to that destination in a way. It's kind of what you're going through. No, I do totally and deeply believe like people behave and think and feel so differently dependent on the space and the materials. And you've touched really brilliantly on the need of being face to face with them to get that brief taking, and then even to present your interpretation of their brief when you're back at them. And I totally get that. In amongst all of that, AI is happening, and it's taking all of that. It's not even two humans talking to each other over a screen. It's a step back from that. But it's clearly got a place. Well, how do you see AI going forward?
AI is a fantastic thing. Let's start with that. Let's start with AI is technology, and you can't ignore technology. Ignore technology at your peril, is what I say. When I was studying, we had drawing boards. The drawing boards were A0 size. They were huge bits of kit, and we used ink on paper. Okay, and at that period of time, there would be one computer in that room, and on that computer was computer-aided design, and there was maybe a lack of respect for that one computer in the room. And maybe a little bit of ignorance. And we kind of looked at it, we said, it will never take off. It will never take off. We've got our lovely drawing boards. We've drawn forever. And that's how we do things. And like that. And then by the time I'd finished my qualification and started going for job interviews, one of the first questions they'd ask me is, nice to meet you, Paul. Can you use AutoCAD? And I would look back at them and kind of smile and say, I'm aware of AutoCAD. And I very, very quickly realised I needed to go and adapt. And I went back out to college and very quickly learned AutoCAD. It's new technology, but at the time it wasn't really being embraced. It was being feared a little bit. Today, 20-something years later, that AutoCAD is dominant in every single design practice. In fact, if you see a drawing board in a studio, you've got to question what it's doing there.
I haven't seen a drawing board.
Yeah, for a long time, because such as that technology has moved on. So when we go back to AI and it's in its infancy, and we say, do we fear this thing, or do we start to understand it a little bit more? And maybe start to embrace it and find out what it can do, what is its possibilities, how is it going to affect our jobs, how is it going to affect what we do? Mm-hmm. Is it a tool for speed? Is it a tool for quality? Is it a tool for creativity? We're still learning this. We're still learning what this thing's going to do. Do we need to fear it and say this thing's going to take over all of our jobs and reduce our jobs? Only time will tell. Will it shape our jobs? Most certainly. Yes. How will we use it is up to us. How will we embrace it? How will we use it to adapt what we do? We are spending a lot of time in our business to see how this thing can be advantageous to us and how can we use it. For instance, when it comes to visualizations or creating concepts for a client, you can use AI with prompts to say, I'm looking for a space that caters for introverts, a certain demographic with a calm colour scheme, and this thing is so fantastic it will produce a scheme for you, which you would look at, and then you can tweak that scheme and move on. So it's done something that we as designers could spend, some time researching, developing, playing with some ideas. It will do it in a fraction of that time, and it will do it quite well. So it'll give you some instant ideas. Will it have that human touch to it? No, it definitely won't have that human touch, because it can only do what you tell it to do. So it's only as good as the input, as good as the prompt. If your prompt misses something that's come out of the brief, it will also miss it as well. So maybe subtleties. Now, of course, you can tweak it and you can move along, but it would only be as good as the input. Basically it's a robot, right? So, and it will lack the emotion that we as humans have, although it might even learn emotions in time. Who knows? So yeah, we're embracing it, we're researching it, we're learning about what it can do. I'm certainly not fearing it. I'm interested to see what its capabilities are, and how it can work with our industry. You may have seen, I think it's this week, Apple have launched their new system, which is going to be heavily incorporating AI. It's going to know a lot about you, your calendar, your messages, what you're searching, and it's going to make suggestions to you, on an hourly basis, this, that, and the other, because that's our future, isn't it? The future is it's a bit like the film in Terminator, where in your glasses, little things will pop up in your glasses, and it will tell you, you've got a meeting in 5 minutes. Flash up.
They're coming as well.
Like that, and it would direct you there, and it's just like that. You'll be in your contact lens where, you'll be looking at me, but actually I'm getting information about in my contact lens, which is, we laugh at it now, but it's the future. Our kids will experience that, things that we say, well, really, but you only have to look at the technology that we all carry around with us now in our pockets or on our hands, in our watches. It's a little bit Star Trek, when I was young and watching Star Trek, and they had a device on their chest that they would press and then make a call to somebody else. That's our phone, isn't it? That's our watch. Yeah. You can make a phone call on your watch now and stuff. So yeah, but I'm very much about embrace technology, understand it, don't fear it, learn it, see what it can do for us in the future. Yeah, be aware of it, and then use it to our advantage.
Yeah. No, I agree. I definitely don't think it's going away, for sure. And sort of when Google came out, you can sort of remember the yellow pages, thinking, "Oh, it's still going to need one of those books," but you don't.
No.
And I just think Google hasn't taken everyone's jobs away. It changes the jobs for sure.
Yeah,
definitely. There's different sorts of jobs. It creates new jobs and maybe streamlines other jobs. There's less admin, less automation, all that type of thing can be done. I get it, but not everyone's running around jobless, are they?
No.
But
no.
It's just, we're just going to have it will shape the future.
Well, if you look at my example of the drawing board, which is, a draftsman would use a drawing board. Now they use AutoCAD or computer. Other systems are available, softwares are available. You may look at, there's a package called Revit, which is now up and coming, which that package does a lot more than AutoCAD for us, where once you've built your model, it gives you so much more back. So this is how the draftsman has advanced with that technology. So he's still drawing, or she's still drawing on a piece of technology, but what that piece of technology now gives back to that draftsman or the business is greater. So spending less time creating it but also getting more back. So our productivity is getting better, it's getting faster, becoming more accurate, the quality is getting better, etc. So have the jobs lessened of the draftsman? I think the draftsman's still there, but what they do, their productivity, what they give back is greater. The quality is greater, we're faster, etc. So maybe we're just advancing quicker, as humans, as a race, we're advancing quicker, but that technology is moving us on.
pushing us on. Oh, that's good. And before we wrap up, Paul, can I just ask you, what is your favourite project? Because you've worked on loads of phenomenal projects. Yeah. Can you even pick a favourite?
Guy, that's a bit like asking me what's my favourite child. Which one is that?
You're not allowed to say.
You're not allowed to say which one's your favourite project. What I possibly can say is that I've had some very good projects and some that stick out in my mind. And one would be I did a project for an engineering firm on the South Bank.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favourite projects because they challenged me across almost every single thing that I do as a designer. So it's an engineering firm, they're designers. They work with designers, they work with architects, they understand creativity. Okay, so first they're going to push me on my creativity. They know material selection, okay, because they do it. They've got to build buildings, bridges, and it's got to be sustainable, it's got to be rigid, it's got to be durable, it's got to be encompassing, but then it's got to be cost effective. So they were going to push me on every single material that I bought. They concept, so they were going to push my creativity as well. They push me everything. They're masters of pushing materials to their weakest points and to their strongest points. So if it's wood, how far can we bend it? If it's metal, can we twist it, rust it, whatever. It's not just a material we take off the shelf and stick it there. So when it came to things like joinery items, they wanted, it's not just a joinery item, it's a screen that doubles up as a TV unit that does this. And they wanted me to come up with those ideas, then they wanted me to embrace innovation technology, so how are they leaders in their field that they've embraced technology into their space as well. And above that, Guy, guess what else? They don't want to spend any more money than the last bit out. They want it to be cost effective and efficient. And so they're going to push me on the budget.
All the numbers.
Looking at all the numbers, all of that. So, and then they wanted the space to be reflective of their goals, their values, and they want it to be a showpiece without it being over opulent as well. So they don't want their clients to come in and say, oh, look at your fancy office. Is this where all our money is going on this, whatever? No, they wanted their clients to come in and say, oh, well, this is an engineering firm that we want to work with because they're creative, they push the boundaries, they're innovative or whatever. But they're not making so much money out of us as clients that's, look at it's all represented in their space because, they're expensive.
Make it make it amazing, but not too amazing.
Exactly that. So I had all that challenge, when I sat down and took the brief, and I smiled all the way through it with all those challenges, which is great. And then I walked out and I took a deep breath and I thought, wow, okay, that's a challenge. And we went back to the office. I sat down with another designer. We brainstormed it together and we came up with loads of ideas. Went back, presented those ideas. They pushed us again. Actually, we wanted to push it a bit further, Paul. Can you go away and come up with even more? We love your ideas, but just a little bit more. And we weren't presented a second time. Yeah, and that's it. They fell in love with the design because we considered everything now. The viewpoints, the lighting, the materials, the innovation, technology. It's not too opulent. The materials are just on point, and all of these things. And then it's very satisfying once the client's bought into your concept, your idea. Mm-hmm. You go through the build process, and they're there. They're watching every screw go into into every wall. Yes, they're questioning everything, like, the acoustics. They're questioning that. It's a great process because you're on your toes, and then it comes to handover day, and you walk them through on handover day, and they walk through the space, and their eyes are wide open, and they're smiling. And you walk them through the space, and they're happy. And for us as designers, that moment is actually something we really live for.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we've hit the brief, we've created something that has met all the challenges as well, and we've got a satisfied client.
Yeah.
And now we're about to make another group of people who are now coming into a new environment really happy in their workplace when they start work, and they walk in day one and day 2, day 3. And they've got a new environment to work in. We've made their lives better. We've increased their lives. Maybe their productivity, maybe their business as well grows from that. So that's one. Another one was I'm gonna mention this company if that's okay. But this is Uber's head office.
Yeah.
In Aldgate, and this is when they were still in their infancy. In London. So they were still trying to break the market over here. They had challenges over here. There's a bit of resistance to their business, as you know, for many reasons. And they were making their way here. But they had that thing where they sat with me when we took the brief, and they said all those things. We want to be standout. Technology is incredibly important to us because their business is based around technology.
Yeah.
Really important to us. We don't want a corporate office, okay? But we don't want to be one of those offices that has a slide in it just for the sake of having a slide, or some sort of funky element just because we want to be slightly funky. We want it to have a purpose. We want it to be organic. We want people to come to work and enjoy coming to work. And we want to be inclusive and expressive in everything we do. But again, we don't want to be seen as being the new business in a new industry that's making lots and lots of money, and we're showing it off in our office. We want it to be a company that truly represents our goals and our values as well. So they're telling me they want it to look good, but they don't want it to show off. They don't want it to be over opulent again.
Similar thread.
Similar thread. It's quite rare you have companies that say we want to be over opulent anyway, but you do get some businesses who do want to show gravitas, and we're doing well, and therefore maybe in some investment firms they do want to show that they're doing very well and the business to reflect that. So you may have some businesses that want marble, on the floor or on their counters, but not Uber. So again, a great challenge. And we went away, we brainstormed that one again, we came up with some really good ideas. We went back and we pitched this one against other, companies in our industry as well. We brought technology into our pitch as well. So we did something that we'd never done before in that, and we immersed them in their design, which is really good for us to do because it was a gamble. We weren't sure, we hadn't done it before. We weren't sure whether they'd embrace it, gimmicky, bit cheesy, or would they say, "Oh, we love this new bit of technology they brought in. If these guys can think like that with technology, what can they bring to the party of Uber? What can we bring to their party as well?" And they loved it, and we built it. It was a huge success, and they, as a business, went on to grow in London. I like to think that being part of that success story, something that we all take for granted now, is that it's on our phones and we use it every so often. But part of that growth would have come out of that office, and building an office that helped them grow. It was it didn't conflict. It helped them with a collaboration, concept, all those things I mentioned earlier. It helped them grow, We look back as designers and say, well, we helped them with that.
Yeah, well, you would have unlocked something there, wouldn't you? Like to enable that. They couldn't have done it without it, could they?
Could have done it without it. So.
There we go.
Yeah.
Success of Uber down to Paul Dare.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. Part of it. No. If any they'd included me in the shares and the dividends, that would have been great. But they forgot about me.
Oh, no, that's a brilliant story, though. It's great to hear. And I do truly believe that it does unlock, it does enable businesses to flourish, people to flourish, and all the rest of it. So no, that's what did they didn't have a slide though.
They did not have a slide. No,
did they have anything?
They didn't have anything crazy. They didn't have anything crazy. Yeah, but their design of the open plan was really organic. So it formed an organic. So they cared less about the efficiency of the building. So you could put things in a building and make it incredibly efficient by making it regimented. Mm-hmm. So it's in straight lines.
I see. Yeah.
It's the most efficient the building can be. Straight lines, rows. And we went against the grain of that. So we went almost a bit like an onion, which is, we created something that's more organic and circular within a building that possibly didn't say that. So when you're in the space, you don't think about the fact that the building is more rectangular, because the design doesn't allow that. The design says we're a bit more fluid, we're free-flowing, we think differently, and you forget about the structure of the building. You only pay attention to the internals of the space, which is really good.
I want to go there now. Ask for Drummond. Oh, that's good. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to add, Paul? Is there anything that I've missed off that you want to say?
No, not really. Apart from the future's exciting. Yes. I find the future very exciting. It's really important that we embrace what's coming, what's around the corner. We'll try and push the boundaries of everything we do. Mm-hmm. I think along the way, I've learned a lot in my time. Mm-hmm. I think we spoke about mistakes earlier, and I say it's important to make mistakes because you learn from mistakes. It's important to have self-awareness, to ask people about how we're doing, how the business is doing, how the industry is doing, which is really important. It's really important to impart that knowledge to people around you, the next generation as well. They say you become a master at something when you teach it. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we teach people as much as we know. We all have something that we can teach somebody. So pass the knowledge on, which is really, really important.
That's good. I think this is passing a lot of knowledge on to people. Yeah. So thank you very much, Paul. It's an absolute pleasure to chat to you.
Thank you, Guy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for listening. I'm also very grateful to all our guests. If you've enjoyed it, please do leave us a rating and a follow. Or if you know who else would like to join the podcast, share the names. We're always open to hearing. Until next time, keep happy, keep healthy, and take care.